What is up, guys? Here are my three Hondas that I currently own. First one is a 2002 AP1 S2000. Right now I have it sitting on Enki PF01s. The fronts are 17 by 8 and the rears are 17 by 9. I did custom red Honda center caps for the emblem in the center. Second car is my 2007 Civic Si. It's sitting on MB weapons, bronze powder coated. They're 17 by 8 plus 42mm offset. I have the calipers done up in red with a Honda decal on them. And then last but not least is my daily, the one I put a lot of miles on. It's my 2010 Civic LX 5-speed manual. So all three cars are manual. That is currently sitting on the stock SI wheels that came with this car. So as far as the S2000, I bought this car in January. It's in very good shape for an 02. Very clean under the hood. Headlights are still nice and clear. It's got the OEM front lip on it. Paint matched, of course. And it has the OEM side strakes, which are this piece right here. That's the side strakes. And then it has the OEM rear spoiler. And everything else about this car is stock besides the wheels. I plan to keep it that way for a while. It's a hell of a lot of fun to drive. Feels like a little go-kart, especially with these tires and these wheels. They're a huge upgrade over the stock AP1 wheels. I have 245 4017s on the rear, and they're Toyo Proxy R1Rs, so they're a 140 treadwear compound tire, and they're very sticky. I haven't yet got this thing to break the rear end loose with these tires. I got it sideways quite a bit with the stock AP1 wheels. And for the front I have the 215 4517s, so it is a staggered setup. Like I said, it's an 8-inch wide wheel in the front, A9 in the rear. As far as the interior, it is in very good shape. Everything's OEM. Seats are still in great shape. And I put a little mount there for the GoPro. The red really stands out compared to my other two cars. I never thought I'd own a red car prior to this year. But once I saw this thing in person, I knew I had to have a red S2000. Before anyone comments about why I own three Hondas and how many loans I have out and whatnot, the answer is 0. The Civic Si was it was my second car, but I count it as my first. I used to have a 2006 Civic LX automatic, and I owned that for about 4 months in high school in my junior year. And I knew I wanted to get a stick, so I found this car shortly after. So I still consider this my first car, because I barely drove the other one. And I bought the Civic completely stock, and over the last 6 years I've modified it to what it is now. The second car I purchased in this lineup was last year, 2015 in May. I purchased this car, and that was completely original too. The only things I've done to it is put the SI wheels on it, plastied up the front grille to hide the chrome, and I plastered up the rear chrome piece as well. And then in January of this year, I drove to Connecticut, which is about a 6-hour ride for me, and I picked this car up. I always thought the Civic Si was the best looking car out there for the longest time, until I actually bought an S2000, and when I put them side by side, you can see how much better and how much more aggressive and how much sportier and more fun it looks to own the S2000 and to drive one too. Like I said, the S2000 is completely stock performance-wise, and it's so much fun to drive. The gearbox is so much shorter than the Si, and the shifts are so much quicker, and to rev it out to 9,000 RPM and hear the thing scream is quite an experience. The Si goes to 8,600, which is no slouch for sure, but something about being in a car so small and ripping it to 9,000 RPM is truly something you got to experience. Here's another shot of the S2000 interior. just to show you how great shape it is. All OEM. Of course, you can see the 9,000 RPM redline. As far as the SI goes, you guys know this one better than the others. This has been the star on my channel for the last 4 years. I haven't really done anything to it in the last 2 years because I've bought 2 other cars in the last 2 years, and recently, as you've seen my videos, I had to replace the transmission pretty much twice in this thing, but we've got it running good now. Like I said before about fun to drive, I'll make other videos in the future comparing these two cars, but as we know, the SI is at like 320, 310 wheel horsepower. The S2000 is completely stock, so it makes 240 at the crank. I've never had it dynoed, but they are said to put around 190 to 200 down to the wheel, maybe even 205, 210 on some good cases. But dyno numbers are irrelevant, we all know that. With that being said, I would still say that the S2000 is definitely more fun to drive than the SI, I would say. It's something else to be in such a small car, and a combination of the engine, the gearbox, and everything about the car just makes it more fun to toss into the corners and power through the revs. The engine bay in this thing is pretty much spotless. The only thing I've done is I took off the top cover for the intake. So that's actually the factory filter. Not many people know these came with a cone filter from the factory, and when you have that intake box on, it's said to get colder air since it sucks it through this port here and not closer to the header, but it just sounds so much better. I'll make a separate video showing you the sound comparison. That I would say that is the best free mod you can do for sound on your S2000. You may lose a couple horsepower because it's sucking in hotter air, but I'm not trying to set records at the track or anything with this car. The sound factor of it definitely takes priority, and it does sound amazing. One other reason this car I would say is more fun to drive than the SI is it's purely mechanical. This here is something the SI doesn't have, a actual cable to the throttle pedal, which is another reason I wanted a AP1 as opposed to the AP2s from 06 up. They came with drive-by-wire, just like the SI, so they had the electronic throttle bodies, and you need to get Flash Pro in order for them to be responsive. So yeah, there's the 3D printed battery tie down I was talking about in a few videos ago. That came out really good, shows up really nice in the bay. But this engine and everything about the bay, down to the point of all the bolts are paint marked from the factory and they have never been loosened. This is truly a nice car to find in the condition it's in. And it's got about 75,000 miles on it now. I just broke 75,000 actually. So enough of the S2000, onto the SI. I'm sure most of the stuff I'm going to say right now is stuff you guys already know. So for any of you that are new to my channel, I'll just go through what I got done to the SI for you quick. Car is in very good condition for a black car. I am so meticulous with this car, and it was recently professionally paint corrected and has 2 coats of C-Quartz ceramic coating on it, which makes the black shine a lot more. Many of you know I have full race 3-inch exhaust that I just finished shining up. Looks like brand new again. So it's a 3-inch exhaust, 3-inch inner diameter all the way to the header. The header on this car is an NVIDIA race header. It's the version 2 header that does not have the flex pipe, because those are known to break. I did not want to get one of those. The wheels on this car, like I discussed earlier, they're MB Weapons 17x8s plus 42 offset, and right now the tires are 215, 45, 17. They've been on there the last couple years. They're the Federal SS 595 tires. They're very cheap, but they seem to perform well for how cheap they were. I plan to autocross this car a lot, which is why I bought the cheap tires, but that was before I put the Supercharger on, and now it's not really in the class worth autocrossing. As far as the interior on the SI goes, it's the same as it's always been here for the last couple of years. I have the Accelerate custom molded gauge pod. That's my favorite piece about the interior, is the gauge setup. Not many people have it, and it's a very clean looking setup, and it's very heads up so you can see the gauges easily while driving. A lot of people run them. They make pods down here, but I find that pointless because you can't see them while driving, and it's very distracting to take your eyes off the road when doing a pull. If you want to look at your boost pressure or your air-fuel ratio, I have them right in front of my face next to the mile an hour. Other than that, I got the red emblem on the steering wheel, skunk tooth shift knob, and as mentioned last year, I put a 2011 SI steering wheel on here because the leather's a lot better quality. And don't get me wrong with what I said earlier, the SI is still a hell of a lot of fun to drive with the way it is. It's got over 100 horsepower more than the S2000, and it's something about the rear wheel drive and the ability to, you know, just get it sideways when you want on the S2000 that I think makes it more fun in the corners for sure, but in a straight line the SI would kick its ass the way it is right now. So as you guys all know, I got the red Boomba engine mounts, which includes the front one up there, and there's one in the front here, and then one underneath the car behind the oil pan. So there's 3 mounts on there. The engine does not move at all. As you all know, I got the Comtech Supercharger on there. It's not ported, it's completely original. And I'm running a 3.0 inch pulley from Vit Viper, stock crank pulley, so it's making around 9.5 PSI at redline. Some other goodies from Vit Viper, as you guys all know, is my big bore inlet, the adapter, and a throttle body from an Acura MDX. It's a J37 throttle body. And then it's mated to the hybrid racing intake here. And there is my aftercooler from Vit 2. And what that does is it cools the air after the blower. So once the air gets past the blower, it's super hot, and then there's actually a core inside here, spaced up from that white piece right there. It spaces the supercharger up another inch. So you can fit a little radiator core in there that flows water through it. And the water from that radiator core flows to this tank and then to a front mount, which is hidden. And it's black, so you can't even tell this car has it. So that does help give you another 40 or 50 horsepower. Or whatever. That's all numbers though. But it's definitely a must-have if you're going to overspin the blower. And this setup is actually pretty conservative. There's a lot of guys online running huge crank pulleys and twisting these to over 18,000 RPM in the blower and making over 15 pounds of boost. So I am playing it conservative, but it's fine with me for now. The aftercooler, as I mentioned in my videos last year, is wired to a switch, so I can turn it on and off whenever I want, so I can provide extra cooling to the supercharger when the car is parked or not even on. But I'm very glad this thing's holding up now. It has the new transmission in it. It's got a brand new second and third gear set in it. It's shifting like it should. It's in very good shape now, and I plan to keep it. I don't see myself getting rid of it anytime soon. Like I said, I own all 3 of these cars, so no loans, no payments every month. The only thing I gotta do is pay insurance, which is quite a bit. But it's definitely a joy, and I'm very fortunate to have all 3. 2 other goodies I forgot to mention are, if you can see in there, I have the SI engraved battery tie down. That's from YoSpeed. It's like $20, so it's a pretty cheap part that looks really nice. And I have the old school gold hybrid racing shifter bushings. You can only get them in black now. That's why I call them old school, because I bought them probably 4 years ago. So lastly, you've seen a video of this last year. It had actually the plasti dip on the wheels, which were black. So they were black wheels with a red Honda Sender cap. But now I removed the plasti dip, tried to clean up the look of the car a little bit. I got sick of looking at black wheels, so I honestly think it looks better like this. It's honestly probably hard to tell this is not an SI unless you look at the rear having drum brakes and the little deck lid spoiler. It's not an SI spoiler, but everything else about it screams SI, which is not a bad thing. I think it looks really good for a daily, and it gets close to 40 miles to the gallon, and it's a 5-speed manual, so I don't have to sacrifice on any of the fun aspects, just down on power is all. One other thing I've done to it, I got bored one day, so I took my stock SI axle back exhaust and I put it on here because it's a direct bolt up. So now the car has a tiny bit of rumble to it, like kind of like a stock SI did, and it honestly helps me when I'm driving, because without that on there, the car is so quiet that I've stalled it many times leaving stoplights or a stop sign, you know, just not paying attention, having the radio blasting. And it's very easy to stall the car because it's so quiet, you can't hear what RPM you're at all. So the SI exhaust gives it a tiny bit of rumble. Nothing you can hear on the highway, obviously, but if you're stopped, you can definitely hear it. And I'll I'll shoot a video of a more further update of this car in the coming days, and I'll do a little sound clip of the exhaust on there. But like I said, it's not the full cat back, it's just from the rear axles back. That one piece is interchangeable between the two cars. I'm not going to bother popping the hood because it's completely stock 1.8 liter R18 engine, and no one really cares to see that. So again, this is the LX Sport model, so I got it in a 5-speed manual, and it has the SI seats in it without the SI emblem. So it's got the sport seats, they're black, and it's got the black door panels with the black material there. Leather wrapped steering wheel, just like the SI. It's actually the exact same steering wheel as in my SI. As I mentioned, this is my newest car. It's a 2010, but it's got the most miles on it now. It got 127,000 right now. I've put over 20,000 miles on it since I bought it last May. It just shows you how much driving I do. But yeah, inside this car, it's pretty comfortable, the daily. 5-speed's a lot of fun, and we'll see how the instrument panel looks nice. Of course, it's an 8th gen, so it's pretty appealing to me. One thing I will say is I've had some unexpected problems with it, and I'll make a separate video describing those, but it hasn't been the most reliable car for me since I bought it a year ago. But hopefully now those problems are fixed. Nothing else should go wrong, I would hope, for a while. I know it's got a lot of miles, but these things have over 200,000 on them online for sale all the time, so I'm planning on keeping it, plan on railing miles on it still, so hopefully nothing else goes wrong, and hopefully it's reliable like it should be. I do have the WeatherTech floor mats in this car, since it's my daily. Definitely recommend those to anyone with an 8th gen or any car in general. They are the best mat you can buy. So yeah, thanks for watching my little tour on my 3 Hondas that I own. If you guys enjoyed this video, give the channel a subscribe. Drop a like, a comment. If you have any questions, I'll get back to you. But thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. If anyone's curious where I keep 3 cars at my apartment, I'm lucky enough to find an apartment that allows garages, and I was able to get 2 garages actually. So I have a garage for the SI, and then I have a garage for the S2000. It's a pretty sweet setup here. And this is my garage that I swap the cars between because I have a light and everything, and the only thing I really don't have that I wish I could have is like an air compressor and power tools and everything, but this is what I work with right now, and it'll do for now. But it's a pretty sweet setup for an apartment. I have a 2-bedroom apartment and 2 garages.